So I first actually got in touch with Yvonne in 2016 when I was going to dive Budak, and she helped me with organizing that when she was in Two Fish Divers. Then since then I met her at TEDx. So she speaks at TEDx. I met her last year as well.
Yes.
Her speciality, I would say, sorry, Yvonne was saying something? Yeah, so Yvonne, I think, is I would say an evangelist for side mount diving, and that's what she spoke about in 2019. So I'm not going to say much about her. I think she will give you a very good idea about how to make the jump from recreational diving to tech diving. I think a journey that she actually has taken herself. So thank you very much for coming again, and over to you, Yvonne.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for inviting me, first of all. So what I would like to do is I'm going to share with you a presentation. If you give me 2 seconds, and just let me know if this is coming up on your screens. And we're going to go right to the beginning. Can you guys see that? If you're muted, maybe just give me a nod or something. So you should be seeing a picture of a couple of rebreather divers, black and white at the moment.
Yes, we can
see that. Okay, cool.
Perfectly clear.
Okay, great. So what we're going to talk about, or what I'm going to talk about, and hopefully you have some questions, is going from recreational to technical diving. Why, when, and how. Now, this is a little bit of an introductory slide. DJ has already told you a lot of stuff about me. Quick one, I'm an instructor trainer. I've been in Southeast Asia since 2014, so a little bit more than 6 years now. I became a technical diver, so I made this transition that you guys, some of you are considering, in 2011, and then in 2015 decided to become an instructor. I teach back mount, side mount, and CCR. My heart does beat for side mount a little bit, as DJ has said, but that doesn't mean that the other two are less important. When I'm not teaching, I do dive tech. Around here in Bali, we have deep reefs to explore, and there's still so much that hasn't actually been seen, that hasn't been touched. So there's still a lot to see and a lot to explore. I enjoy wreck diving, and I'm really looking forward to getting back into caves. There are caves being discovered in Indonesia as we speak. So technical diving in this country is only going to get better. Dark Horizon is my company. I founded it 2019, in my first year of trading. Now, first year of trading, it would have 3 months or maybe longer now without any diving. So far, we're hanging on there. And really the aim of Dark Horizon is to train our future tech diving buddies or teammates. I specialize in offering technical diving related courses, as well as experience dives and tech diving trips. So enough about that, I think, enough about me and the company I started. Why would you want to go tech diving is the first question. Now, first of all, exploration. You as a tech diver will get to go to places that very few, if anyone, has ever seen before. Even with the dive sites that we dive in Bali, you might have divers in shallow water. You're not going to really see anybody much below 30 meters. We do go to some slightly different reefs. We do spend more time at depth, and with that being in a different place comes that you will have different interactions. You're getting closer and closer to the places where larger pelagic species live. And because you're in their territory, rather than them coming shallow to go and hunt, you then start to get better interactions. So you start to get a bit more time with those species. Exploration, one of the reasons, shipwrecks. Shipwrecks were what brought me into technical diving. In 2010, I was living in Scotland. I had just made the jump from working in a corporate environment to working full-time in diving. And off the coast of Scotland, shipwrecks were being discovered. World War II wrecks, untouched, between 40 and 60 meters. So close, but so far still. So I decided I had to go and become qualified to dive some of those wrecks. It's more than just seeing scenic things. You are actually diving into pieces of history. The picture you're seeing here is of the Momokawa Maru in Truck Lagoon. And what you see there is you have this beautiful environment. You have blue water, you have 30-degree water, you have relatively well-preserved wrecks. So it's one of my favorite places, and one that I'm hoping to go back to next year. Next, caves. Now then, we just said earlier, some of you would have been tuned into, DJ talks to you about cave diving to 100 meters. Yes, that's worth it, but that's not where you start. But caves are something that is just quite incredible. You're going sort of to the end of the earth, you're going into earth. It's a pretty spectacular, but also quite a challenging thing to do. So inspiration, yes. Do you have to become a cave diver just because you're interested in technical diving? No, you don't. But with a lot of things, you might find that one step leads to the next, leads to the next. And there's another reason. It doesn't always have to be deep. There's knowledge and skills and simply becoming a better diver. Not every dive that you do may be a tech dive. Not every dive that I do is a deep dive, but quite often I simply go with a couple of tanks and try working on some skills, or just pretty much try looking from a technical course, from a technical diving course, will be something that you'll take into any recreational dive that you're doing after this. So it's one of these things that will reap you benefits. It's not just those deep dives, it's not just the big dives, it's the small dive level, your confidence underwater will summon. So those are some of the reasons why you would want to tech dive. So where does tech diving actually start? There's no one size fits all answer, but here are some of the things on the screen that are part of technical diving. One of the biggest differences is the level of planning. Now, one of you said earlier, the logistics, there's so much involved. Now, you're right, when you go through initial courses, yes, there is more planning involved. Yes, there's a little bit of math, but just like a lot of things that you do for the first time, it feels like it's maybe challenging. There's maybe a lot to it. The more you do it, the more you will find that actually it becomes second nature. If you compare it to learning to drive a car, the first few times that you drive a car, it's such a busy thing to do. You've got so many things at all about the driving part. So detailed dive planning, one of the biggest differences. The dive plan and the team safety take precedence over anything else. So the picture you have here, you've got a deep reef, you've got some pinnacles, it's beautiful and we might want to explore more. But if there's a problem, then that problem is more important than anything else that is happening. And if that means that we have to abort the dive, then that's what it means. And that then is the most important thing. Other things, going beyond no stop limits, but planning for them, not just slipping past the no decompression limit of your computer, actually having an intention to stay longer depth and having a plan for that. Maybe going into overhead environments, we've touched on those a little bit, using different gases, high oxygen content nitroxes, for example, and trimixes, depending on the depth you're going to, depending on what you want to be there, what you want to do there, sorry. More equipment, different equipment, it's not hugely different necessarily, but there is more of it. And technical diving does require a high level of skills, both on land and underwater. So there's a few things there coming together. What about the risks? Is technical diving riskier than recreational diving? The answer to that is yes, it is, because you're no longer allowed to come straight to the surface. Once you have incurred decompression stops, whether you're on a reef, in a wreck, whether you're in a cave, you now have a ceiling. If you're on a reef, it's called a virtual ceiling because there's nothing physically right above your head. If you're inside a shipwreck, if you are in a cave, yes, there is an actual ceiling right above you. So you cannot just go up to the surface. Said that, you train for the on a technical diving course, you spend a lot of time wrong, whether it is the equipment, whether it is your dive plan, whether your team has a problem. All of these things are, you carry redundant equipment. There's a philosophy called one is none, two is one. Having one thing, one mask, one computer,
Looks like Yvonne left, right? Or
Yes,
she
what
maybe
do
the
you say?
connection.
Is anyone having problems with the internet connections, or is it just Yvonne?
I keep getting disconnected as well.
Yeah,
Yes,
same here.
yes.
Mine got a little stuck as well. Now it's okay.
Maybe Yvonne's connection wasn't good. She said
Yeah,
she had no problems
Yvonne's,
here. Yeah.
Yvonne's is the one, because it's her uploading or her voice is the one that breaks up.
That's right.
Assuming that's hers.
Yeah, so maybe her connection.
Madhava, if you have her presentation, or DJ have her
Yeah, we
presentation, why don't you
asked Manju, but the presentation is
Olak.
too large to share, it seems.
Oh.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you all can run the presentation and let her speak.
Yeah, that's what we also thought.
Oh, she's back.
Okay.
So, sorry everybody.
No worries.
Shall I jump back into the presentation? And is that okay?
Yeah, we can see it now.
All right. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah,
All
loud
right.
and clear.
Okay, dokie. So, when is the right time? Honestly, that question is pretty much for you to answer. But here's some indicators. A few considerations really. Now, one thing to start with is course prerequisites, but they really are just that. They really are just a minimum and an indicator. Not many divers are ready at that point. So if you look at TDI, which is the agency that I teach mostly, for an intro to TEC, a short introductory course, you're looking at being an open water diver with 24 dives minimum. Now, I wasn't ready when I was at that point to go and do any technical diving. For the first level of decompression diving, advanced nitrox deco procedures, it's been having a nitrox qualification and again 25 dives. I would have been nowhere near ready, but some people might be. So when you're considering doing a technical course, look at the prerequisites, but also more importantly, look at your diving at the moment. Think about things like buoyancy you're looking to build on with mastering more equipment. Mask skills. When was the last time you took your mask off and put it back on? Did you do that when you were neutrally buoyant? What about awareness, where you are, where your team is underwater, and what about your overall comfort level? And it's not just about what happens underwater, it's also about what happens when you are on land, for you to find things with one hand without seeing anything. All of those things are important and they become even more difficult. What about diving procedures? That starts with pre-dive safety checks and the like. And what about your knowledge of diving theory? All of those are things to take into consideration when you are thinking about taking a technical diving course. In preparation, there are some things that you could make every single one of your dives count that you are doing now. So all of your recreational dives, they are a good opportunity to practice trim and hovering. Take a look at your diving books that you already have. Physics, physiology, any of those principles that are in those books, anything you learn. Sorry, I just had some feedback there. Any of the principles that you learned on your open water course, they're the same for technical divers, just applied to greater depths and different environments. If you're bringing your own gear to your technical diving training, try and be familiar with it. And I've put here a little bit tongue-in-cheek, including the instructions for your dive computer. It's one of those things so often overlooked, but you need to know how that works. And as a technical diver, a lot of technical divers become a little bit, OCD is the wrong word, but really very involved in the details of their own equipment. So all of those things are good things that you can start working on right now, just as soon as your lockdown's lifted, as soon as you can go back to diving. This is all going to help you when you are looking at getting ready to make that transition. Where do you start? Now, another good question. Technical diving is a journey. It's not done in just 1 week or 2 days, but you can actually get started in as little as 2 or 3 days for introductory courses. Now, what will you learn in this time? Enough to find out whether you think technical diving is for you. It will be enough to get an idea of how the equipment works and what skills you might need to progress further. It's a great way to find out whether you think that technical diving is for you. So if you're listening now thinking, I'm not sure this is my kind of thing, I'm not sure I want to commit to it or anything like that, then an introductory course like an Intro to TEC or basic Sidemount course are actually the ideal way of answering that question. And it gives you a way of getting a taste of technical diving without committing too much time, too much effort, too much budget. So it's a great way of just getting a taste of it. Initial certification courses for TDI, that's advanced nitrox deco procedures, usually take between 4 and 7 days. Now, might sound like a lot for something like 8 or 10 dives, but it's not just the diving. There's dive planning, there's equipment configurations and setup, there are briefing and debriefing sessions, and all of them go to different level of depth, so all of them will take a little bit more time. Plus, you are towards the end of those courses completing decompression dives, so you can't really do 4 dives a day anymore. 1 or 2 will be plenty, and you will actually feel that that has been a full day. So really, anything 2 to 3 days if you're just getting a taster, the better part of a week if you really want to progress as far as decompression diving would give you a good introduction to technical diving. Now, I've mentioned the training agency that it's not the agency, it's the instructor. So picking a training agency is one thing, but really you want to see if you can find an instructor that you click with or that's maybe recommended. Why? Because it's a little bit more of an involved course. It helps if you can develop a little bit of a personal connection. So find someone who teaches and does the sort of diving that you would like to do. Ask them if they have a philosophy of their training, how they conduct their courses. There's really a lot more variation between technical diving instructors, courses, how things are run. So all of those are good questions to ask and to look for personalized training schedules. Look for them is one-on-one or one-on-two. And although standards would allow me to teach more, I feel that I actually, that one-on-two is probably just about perfect. One-on-one also works pretty well. I don't really enjoy teaching the big courses because it sort of feels like not everybody is getting all the attention they could be getting. As far as the agency is concerned, check out how course structures work. Are they flexible? Are they set? So with PADI courses, for example, you have a very, very detailed plan that says on dive 1, we have to do this. On dive 2, we have to do that. With TDI, it's more of a long list of skills. And by the end of the course, we have to make sure that all of those skills, that all of those performance requirements have been reached, have been achieved, which leaves, from a teaching point of view, a lot more flexibility to make the course work for an individual student or a particular environment that we're in. Is e-learning available? I think all of us have spent a lot more time in front of our screens recently. I'm a big fan of e-learning because you will arrive with questions. So we can tackle the theory in a more targeted way rather than spending a lot of time looking at every single PowerPoint that there is. How does course progression work? Another good question. Maybe you don't want to stop at the initial level. Maybe you already want to think further. How would you go from your initial level to the next level? Where should you train? Ideally, where you will dive. Because then you would pretty much learn in the conditions that you're later diving. Your equipment will be set up for that environment, procedures will be the same as they were in training. So, for example, when I did my TEC training, it was in Scotland. Cold water, dry suits, steel tanks. Now that I'm teaching in warm water, it took some adjustments. What am I wearing now? How do aluminium tanks react? What sort of weights do I need? Is it impossible to do that? No, it's not. You just process. I'm sure you can take some training in Sri Lanka where you are at the moment, but maybe you want to do it sort of more compounded in a holiday type setting, meaning more focused time. All of those are options. You just need to be aware that maybe if you're then taking things back to a different environment, you will need a little bit of a time to familiarize yourself with that environment. But it's one thing to think about. If you think that you really want to explore shipwrecks in dark waters, then maybe try and train somewhere that already has some more challenging visibility so that you are getting more and more familiar with that environment. Twinsets or Sidemount? Now, DJ gave my game away. I really like Sidemount. I like the flexibility. I like the options it offers and the comfort level that it gives me. If we want to break it down into advantages, disadvantages, Twinsets give you a bit more of a stable platform. Sidemount can be configured more flexibly. If somebody has back problems, for example, Sidemount tends to work a little bit better. And they both have their advantages, disadvantages. In a Twinset, you can get all of your bottom gas from one regulator because the two tanks are connected with a manifold valve. However, in Sidemount, you're less likely to lose. Your two cylinders are not connected to each other. So there's upsides and downsides, advantages, disadvantages to either of those. It is possible to try both before choosing one for training. Remember we talked about the introductory courses. Nothing wrong with doing one of each and then saying, okay, right, so this I enjoy more, so that is what I'm going to pursue. Again, going back to location where you want to be diving, not every destination has Twinsets, for example. On the other hand, some destinations might have big waves, big boats, and then maybe Sidemount is not ideal. So it's one of those things where you want to try and weigh your options. Bear in mind, you can always cross over from one to the other, expand your skills from one to the other. So that really, at the end of the day, it almost becomes a little bit of a toolbox, and you're picking which one works better for you. Reason to say, I feel more comfortable in one or the other, so that will be my kind of diving. What equipment will I need? Now then, the good news is you don't have to buy it all at the beginning. You can buy step by step. Now, principle of carrying redundant equipment, two of all of the important things, means that you will find some of your stuff that you already own will kind of transition over. Owning tech diving equipment, once you've decided technical diving is for you, is definitely worth it. Having your own stuff, knowing where it is, knowing how it works, will make a big, big, big difference to your comfort level, your ability to deal with problems and all of that. If you can, try before you buy. Most technical diving shops, most schools, instructors will offer equipment rental, they'll offer tryout options. Of course, you could go shopping and buy it all now, but quite often then what happens is that you will end up buying it again, or buying something else, or realizing that there's something that you like better that would have suited your diving better. So I would advise a little bit of research, a little bit of trying out time, and then taking it further into buying your own equipment. And you can start investing step by step. Some of my favorites would be a dive computer so that you really know how it works. Setting up harnesses and backplates tends to take some time, so that might be something that you want to do early on. Regulators, especially now that we're all hopefully coming out of this coronavirus situation, and that you might want to be more comfortable having your own, knowing how it's been cleaned, how it's been disinfected. So personal items first, and then build it up step by step from there. The gear you already own, I've already mentioned a little bit, some of it can transition with you, whether it is the main act, your most important piece of equipment, or whether it becomes part of your backup equipment. Mask, fins if they're suitable, exposure suits if you're staying in a similar environment. Not every tech dive will be very dark and very cold, so you might well find that the suit you are using now will work for you. Torches, other accessories, you might already have them. You may need to adjust the way you carry them so that they are streamlined. But that doesn't mean that you have to buy everything new. Regulators may be, you may be able to reconfigure them and to use them for your new kind of diving. You may even be able for a time to transition them backwards and forwards before you really then make that commitment and buy separate lots of equipment. So there's plenty of options there to use what you have and then and start doing that step by step. Right, about rebreathers. The picture you're seeing here, that is on the ascent from a 100-meter dive. I had an opportunity last year to assist a marine biologist on a project where he's trying to find out which species need what amount of light, and he's pretty much installed light sensors at different depths. This is us coming up. The scientist himself will, he takes pictures with a big camera. My job is to look after dive planning, and I should say actually that I'm only filling in here for the person that normally sort of partners up, but keeping an eye on times, keeping an eye on decompression times, schedules, but also filming the marine biologist at work. So this is why you see me there holding on to what's simply a GoPro and coming up along the reef slowly but surely. So rebreathers, they are an awesome piece of kit. Few things to consider. If you're not really familiar with how rebreathers work, they basically recycle your breathing gas. So they're eliminating carbon dioxide as you breathe out and add oxygen to that breath that you're recycling as your body metabolizes it. You can see in the picture there, there's an open circuit tank, basic tank, and rebreather divers do carry open circuit gas in case something does go wrong and they need to bail out from their rebreather onto an open circuit gas to finish their dive safely. Why would you want to dive CCR? Well, you have more time on the water. You're pretty much breathing the ideal gas to minimize decompression time, and the scrubber, the part of the rebreather that eliminates carbon dioxide, really becomes your main limitation. How much time exactly depends on your dive profile, the rebreather design, diving conditions. And yes, rebreathers are an investment, but if you are thinking of regularly diving deeper than 45, 50 meters on trimix, your cost per dive will become much less because you are saving in helium costs. Helium costs on open circuit soon become one of the biggest investments if you're going into that direction, and that's where, if you're doing those sort of deeper dives, if you're moving that way, your rebreather might well start paying for itself. Also, no bubbles. So the marine life comes closer, you get better interactions. It is silent, it's really very quiet compared to diving with bubbles. So all of those are, in my mind, things that are benefits of diving a rebreather. What's it like? It's different. Everything you know about buoyancy will be different. Breathing in and out will no longer actually affect your buoyancy. You will breathe in and stay exactly where you are. You'll breathe out and stay exactly where you are. You're controlling your buoyancy, your position in the water with the help of your wing and the rebreather's counterlungs. Is it for you? The good news is, again, you can try rebreather diving, similar to a try dive. You can also do a rebreather try dive. Full session, maximum 10 meters, 1 or 2 dives, one day, to just give you an idea of what it feels like, to give you an idea whether you think this is something that actually you want to take forward to a full course, never mind buying a unit. Do some research. Rebreather qualifications are unit specific. So what you see here in the picture is the AP. The rebreather closer to you is an Evolution Plus. The one that's a little bit further away is an Inspiration. They're effectively the same unit. One slightly bigger, the other one is slightly smaller. But your horse, they are over qualification. So let's say you get qualified on one of these and then decide, oh no, want to try something else. You would then go and cross over to that other unit. And just like any diving training, technical, recreational, it is done in steps, starting out either at either at 30 or 45 meters, then 60, then 100 meters. In any case, a basic open circuit technical diving qualification is very useful. In fact, advanced nitrox, the ability to use gases up to pure oxygen, is required before learning to dive CCR, and it will help you having that little bit more of an understanding before you are taking that step. Right. Coming towards the end of the presentation, just for fun, technical fun dives exist. They are as much fun as they are an important part of your development as a tech diver. What you're doing on those is you're building up experience. You are diving in different conditions. You're dealing with different situations as they arise, not as a scenario that your instructor throws at you. So building up that experience between taking courses is important to consolidate your skills, but also to develop them and to allow them to become second nature. And that process takes time. That's not something that you can rush. Many instructors, dive centers will offer technical experience dives, accompanied dives, team dives, all of that. You will still be responsible for your equipment setup, for your dive planning. You might even lead the dive. So you will find that you're involved at a different level from a recreational dive. A step-by-step process, and you can start slowly. But, and this is my disclaimer, my word of warning, technical diving is addictive. You will start finding other things that you might still want to learn, things you might still want to discover. So you might well find that it is a slippery slope, and you might find yourself spending more and more time underwater. Just don't say you have not been warned. Okay, right. This is the last of my slides. So at this point, I'd like to say thank you for listening to me. Sorry for the connection cutting out a little bit. I hope you did get most of it. I know we've got time for questions, which is great. But also, if there are questions that come to you in the next few days or whatever, simply get a hold of me. There's contact details on this slide, but also DJ has them, and I'm sure the club can forward them, and I'm more than happy to answer any more questions that you might have. So what I'm going to do now is stop sharing my screen, and I'll see if I can bring my video back. So that you can see me again. There we are. Yes, and hopefully if there are some questions, you can, either one of you can read them out, or you can just put them in the chat.
Hi, Yvonne.
Hello.
Hi, this is Vishwa. I won't switch on the video because I'm having a very patchy connection.
Okay.
First of all, I'd like to thank you for accepting our invitation to address the club. And secondly, for giving this fantastic and insightful talk. I'm sure your talk has inspired and tempted us to break the comfort zone of recreational diving and venture into the tech diving world. Thank you so much for sharing your invaluable knowledge, experience, and insightful tips. We have arranged a small token of appreciation from all of us, and it's on its way to you and should reach you soon. So hopefully you like it.
I look forward to seeing that.
And we will be surely getting in touch with you when we are planning our trips to Bali, which is hopefully soon with the current COVID thing going on. So hopefully we should be able to go that way. So until then, take care and good luck.
Yes, thank you very much again for having me. Sorry for the connection in between, but village Wi-Fi in Bali, what can I say? But yes, it's been great to meet you all. And yes, hopefully we'll all meet underwater again. I want to see those sharks that are behind you there the whole time.
And a big thank you for all those who joined the talk today. I'm sure you guys found this very useful. And last but not least, I'd like to thank DJ for reaching out to Yvonne and coordinating with her to make this talk possible. So thank you, everyone, and good night.
Thank you, Yvonne. Thanks, DJ.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night.
You're welcome.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Stay safe.
Thank you for listening. You too.